So, solving equations with rational coefficients. So rational, I always think of fractional, and if you take out the F and the C, it spells that same word, fractional, or decimals. And a coefficient is the number in front of variable. So we're going to solve equations with fraction or decimals in front of the variable. So notice it's 2/5 x equals 8. So the first thing that you're going to do on these, we know that it's 2/5 x. So if I want to get rid of the fraction, and that's what you're going to try to do in the first step, is get rid of fraction. Sorry, that's kind of hard to see. And you're going to do this by multiplying by denominator. And we're going to do it to the whole thing. So you're going to see me do times 5. And this is kind of like a parentheses. I don't like using parentheses here because if I have a parentheses, like if I have to distribute, like we've been doing, then I don't want it to get mixed up. So I usually do a bracket. Some teachers do a parentheses, but I'm going to do a bracket. And notice I do it to the whole thing because what I do to one side, I have to do the other. So if I multiply a 5 times 5, that cancels. But I also have to multiply by a 5 here. So make sure you put a big note both sides. So the 5 times 5, and I'm going to go ahead and write it. If we have 5 times 2 to the 5th x equals, and I have 5 times 8. So you could think about it as almost a distribution into both things. Okay, we know that this cancels, so then I'm left with 2x equals 5 times 8 is 40. Then just solve. Like you always do, or like we've been doing. So then it's 2 times x, the opposite of multiply by 2 is divide by 2, and divide by 2. So then x would equal 20. Okay, so the only thing that we did different is that we multiplied by a 5. I'm going to show you whenever we did, maybe I don't have it in this spiral. Oh yeah, right here. So remember when we had problems like this, x divided by 3 minus 2 equals 3. So we got this by itself first, so that it was x divided by 3, and then we just multiplied by 3 to both sides. So we're just doing this a step earlier than we did the last time. And you can do it either way. So here, let's do another one. So example 2. So if I have 1/2 x plus 6 equals 16. Another way you can also see this, because if it's 1/2 x, this x doesn't actually have to be there. It could be in the numerator. And you wouldn't even have to have the 1. It could just be x divided by 2 plus 6 equals 16. So it could look exactly like that, just like that x divided by 3 one that I just showed you. But for right now, we're going to make it for sure that these are fractions. So again, do that same step you did up here. Get rid of the fraction by multiplying by the denominator, and you have to do it to everything. So I'm going to get rid of the fraction because most people don't like fractions. So the denominator is 2, so I'm going to multiply everything by 2. Multiply it into each part. Notice each term is separated by an addition sign. So then it would be 2 times 1/2 x plus 2 times 6 equals 2 times 16. You do not have to write this out. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew 2 goes into every single part. So we have a 2 over 2, so then we're left with 1x. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 16 is 32. And then we're just going to solve. Sorry, I have a tickle in my throat this morning. So we're going to circle our variable. The opposite of add 12 is subtract 12. So bring down the 1x. Bring down the equals. 32 minus 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. 3 minus 1 is 2. Okay, we have 1 times x. Remember we talked about 1x is the same thing as x. So you could just write it as x equals 20. Some people still feel that they need to divide by 1, which is fine. It would just be x equals 20, which is the same thing as 1x. Okay. Example 3. So we have -2 thirds 5p minus 15 equals 10. Okay, now this is why I use the brackets. So if you notice, it's -2 thirds parentheses 5p minus 15 equals 10. You could, if you really wanted to, distribute this first. But if we just get rid of the fraction, it will be easier to distribute. You won't have a fraction to deal with. So again, get rid of the fraction by multiplying by the denominator. So I want that 3 to cancel, so I'm going to have to multiply by 3. Now, notice, all of this is multiplying together. So I only actually have to multiply this in to here, to all of this stuff, and multiply it into there. Remember, terms are separated by addition signs. All of this is multiplied together. All of this is one piece. So one piece here. So then it would be 3 times -2 thirds. Just bring down the 5p minus 15. And then equals 3 times 10. That cancels, so now all we will be multiplying in is a -2. 3 times 10 is 30. So again, this is multiplied in to those parentheses. So I'm just getting rid of that 3. I don't need to multiply the 3 into each part of this parentheses, because I'm going to do that in just a minute when I distribute. Okay, now go ahead and distribute. So it'd be -10p, because -2 times 5 is a -10p. Then a negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 15 is 30. Equals 30. Now notice the difference here. This is the distributive. The parentheses were right here. That's why I use the brackets when I'm multiplying into everything. This -2 is not multiplying by the 30. Okay, then go ahead and solve. Subtract 10, subtract 10. Oh, that was not very smart. Subtract 30, sorry. Subtract 30. So 30 minus 30, I was trying to get this by itself. So 30 minus 30, that cancels. 30 minus 30 again would be 0. It would cancel out. So make sure you put a 0 there. Then it'd be 10p. It's -10 times p, so divide by -10. Divide by -10. P would equal 0 divided by -10. 0 divided by -10 is 0. Okay, last one. Some people prefer to use decimals over fractions, and then sometimes they're just going to be written as decimals. So what we're going to do is just solve this just like we've been doing. It's just that there's a decimal instead of whole numbers or integers. Okay, circle your variable. What's the opposite of subtract? 3.2, add 3.2. Add 3.2, bring down the 4.9, bring down the equals, 5, 7, 8, 9, 6, 26.95. Okay, then it's 4.9 times x, so the opposite of multiply is divide, and divide. X equals 26.95 divided by 4.9. Remember, you do top divided by bottom, and we get 5.5 would be our x value. So in my opinion, the decimals are a lot easier. When you're using decimals, you're definitely probably going to want to use a calculator, so just borrow one or use the one on your computer. When you're looking at these ones, you're going to need to get rid of the denominator or get rid of the fraction by multiplying by the denominator.